name is Demetriouse Russell, and I am CEO of Venn Diagram Partners. We've been in business for nearly 5 years, and our core business centers around customized leadership development, diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging consulting, and thirdly, executive coaching. The pillars that we work with our clients really center around talent, acquiring unique talent or diverse talent, and how to retain them and develop them. The second is culture, making sure that when you bring the talent in, that it's a place where people can feel like they can belong and to thrive. So I call that getting the water right. And then thirdly is community. And this is how we go out, how we take a company outside of its walls and how they interact with the community in a way that they're making a difference in the communities that they operate in. And then as part of that, making sure that we as an organization present ourselves in a way that people are attracted to us and that we are deserving of the best talent in the world. One of the things that we see, it goes back to the first pillar, and thinking that all we need to do is just add Black and brown people and the like, and we fix the problem. That add and stir approach has been failing, because if we don't get the water right, remember it's talent, we get the talent to the culture, we got to get the water right. What happens is that it becomes a revolving door in organizations for people of color, and ultimately results in what I like to call regrettable attrition. And so that is what we see the most pervasive problem. This mindset of all we got to do is add and stir and we fix the problem. So that's what we work on initially. That's why talent is the first pillar. We do a lot of work with leaders internally, going back to the 3 areas of customized leadership development. So we'll go in and design training programs for managers and high potential people of color and as such, so that they have a better awareness of diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. So we do a lot of teaching because there's an awareness issue. And then secondly, we also help stand up DEIB committees or task force. We have a structure and a playbook for that that's oftentimes co-chaired with the CEO, because unless there's buy-in from the top, this doesn't work. And then thirdly, what we then do with the committee is help them develop a strategic roadmap that lends to the pillars of talent, culture, and community, so that they have a plan in place for people when they come into the organization. And it's not just for the people of color, it's for everyone to be a part of this. And again, it has to start from the top, because then you get the trickle-down effect. If the CEO is out front leading this charge, then people tend to fall in line. And then for those who don't, they self-select and say, this is not the right place for me. So we also see that occur as well. My life started in Chicago in Cabrini Green, which is one of the worst housing projects in the country. It has now been gentrified. And then we moved to Newton, Massachusetts. And that was the second thing that changed everything, because I went from being in a majority Black community, poor community, to a highly affluent, diverse community in Newton. And we lived in public housing, which was another reward in that I learned how to overcome that poverty and that socioeconomic challenge. And Newton was just an incredible experience for me. The community embraced me. It helped that I was a star athlete in 3 sports: football, basketball, baseball, and even played tennis, and even some hockey growing up. So I made a lot of friends playing sports, and it opened a lot of doors playing sports. And it also taught me that to put student in front of the athlete. And there were a couple of people along the way that I have to mention that really helped me tremendously. And one was my teacher, Dr. Patricia Kempton, who, when I was in the 10th grade, saw me dribbling a basketball down the hall and said, "Look, Michi," which is my nickname, "you're more than just an athlete," and convinced me to start taking my academics seriously. And I'm grateful for that, because 2 years later, I became the first Black person to win the Senior Cup at Newton South. I went to Morehouse College to really better understand my identity as a Black man in America. And that was the second thing that changed everything, because it gave me self-esteem. And I learned my history. And I became a history major while there and became the top history student. I earned a fellowship to study at the London School of Economics. Then I came back, finished up at Morehouse, Phi Beta Kappa, magna cum laude, and I was a Rhodes Scholar finalist. I went into banking and got lucky again, well, fortunate again, or blessed again, by having Gail Snowden as my first manager for the first 5 years of my career there. And she was remarkable. She taught me everything I needed to know about corporate America. Again, I was a first generation person to finish high school in my family of 8, finished college, and then to work in corporate America, which was a big adjustment. When I got my first paycheck, which was, we were paid monthly back in the late 80s, early 90s. It was short. I thought it was short because I thought I was supposed to get the whole salary in my first paycheck. And I'm sitting around at a lunch table with my colleagues and like, no, Demetriouse, we're paid monthly. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? Okay, because that's how naive I was in entering the world of corporate America. Which has now informed me in the work I do with helping people who, particularly younger people coming in, the millennials and Gen Zers, understand what they're walking into, because oftentimes it's a world that is foreign to them, especially if you didn't have a parent or relative who worked in a corporation before, right? If we don't understand the demographic shifts that are occurring in this country, we will miss the boat. And so organizations that are preparing themselves for the new entrants in the workforce by making, again, that water a place where people can feel like they belong and can thrive. Organizations who get that right are going to be the winners, and those who don't, quite frankly, are going to be the losers. Because organizations need to understand that we as people of color, Black, brown, and the like, if we don't see ourselves within your organization at all levels, that's not going to be a place that's going to be attractive to us. So there's one client that we've been working with now for 3 years, a financial services firm that had very little diversity here in Boston. The numbers out of a 300-person firm, less than 5% of the firm was diverse. We said, look, we got to do some research and analysis on what is the eligible pool of talent here in Massachusetts that we can draw from. And so we decided to set some aggressive goals with the client. So we wanted to have that organization look more like the national demographics. And we are, in 3 years, it's a slow crawl, but we're moving in the right direction. They've also just hired a chief diversity officer, which is something that we had certainly co-signed on. And I thought that to help accelerate the work that they're doing to get the representation at all levels of the organization that is heading toward a direction that really reflects the national demographics. I think the one thing that really differentiates us is that we're willing to get our hands dirty because this work, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, is highly nuanced, challenging, and ambiguous at times. And so it's easy for other firms to go in and tell firms, here's what you should do, here's a strategy, and then say goodbye. What we do is we collaborate with the client to come up with a strategy that's culturally fitting for them, and then we get into the mud with them to see it through in the implementation. We go in, we create awareness, and now that the awareness is there, that's the so what. The now what is, let's get some action in place to make a meaningful difference in talent, culture, and community. My email address is drussell@VennDiagramLLC.com. You can also contact us through our website, www.VennDiagramLLC.com.